We're back, and joining me now is renowned entrepreneur, philanthropist, and one of Hollywood's most innovative film financiers and producers, Victorino Noval. Victorino, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you've raised an astonishing amount of money for charity. And so, although this might seem like an obvious question, I'm going to start with it anyway. What drives you?
The opportunity of being able to help and making a difference. Coming from a very poor family and immigrating here from Cuba, and being able to be part of this great community and all the successes that I've had, I just really enjoy now being the guy that's able to give back.
So you became very successful in business. What led you into the arena of Hollywood?
Well, I moved here when I was 6 years old, and I was fortunate to move to the Beverly Hills area. And all my friends, many of my friends were involved in the movie industry. It wasn't something that I was interested in. It was too complicated. I was more of a real estate guy. My father was, my grandfather was. So I went into real estate, and it came to a point where I was successful in real estate and started to get bored in real estate. And it was just so much more exciting to be involved in the movie business.
And I understand that you're actually involved in 4 different films with James Franco, as well as a mentorship program. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that, and also how you brought in director Tony Kaye to collaborate with Franco for the sake of your foundation, which we'll talk about more in a moment. How did all of that come to light?
Well, James, one of his best friends came to me and said, you should meet James, and James has a lot of pet projects that he wants to do. He's teaching at the time he was teaching at Tisch University at NYU, and I saw some of the scripts, and I said, well, I'd love to fund them, and I'll give my profit back to the university. And I want it to be used for kids that are trying to become the next James Cameron or the next Spielberg, and don't have the opportunity because they don't have the small money that it would take to make the small film or whatever it is they want to do. So being able to do that was a big deal, and James was so into it, into helping the students also, that I got really excited. Some of these movies had to do with bullying, and he had big stars in these movies that haven't been released yet. And some of the big stars included Jessica Chastain, who had just won an Academy Award, and Olivia Wilde, and everybody likes to work with Franco. He's very loved in Hollywood, and people do stuff for him that they won't do for other people. So the association with him was just a great opportunity, and love him to death.
So you're not just using celebrity to raise money for charity, you're also using the same celebrity to help promote the arts as well. Is the arts something that's of great importance to you? And if so, how?
Well, being able to help the kid become the next big artist in town and make the biggest movies in the future is a great privilege that I was able to help him do it. But those people that have that become the stars, if you will, they have the opportunity of doing a lot of charity. Anytime I do an event where the bigger the celebrity that comes and participates and helps, the more money we raise. Mm-hmm. So I would hope that in the future, whoever we help helps the community. And I think they will. And there's a lot of people I'm working with right now that would just do anything to help.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned James Franco, but I understand that you've also collaborated with someone even more important than James, his grandmother. What was that like?
Well, through our association, I've met her a few times, and she does a lot of art shows, whether it's Art Basel or here in Los Angeles, and I love going to art shows. And she's about 90 years old. She carries around a cane, and she makes a point to hit all James's friends with the cane. I've been hit a couple of times. She's just a great lady, and I think it's James's favorite person in his life. He loves her so much.
Even if she does strike him from time to time.
Yes.
Speaking of striking people from time to time, I understand you also auctioned off gloves for world champion boxer Manny Pacquiao. I hope I pronounced that correctly. What was your involvement with the champ?
Well, I was at a fight a couple years ago with him that he won, and we were coming back home, and we were talking about the typhoon that had hit the Philippines, and he wanted to raise some money. He was building a hospital. And I said, well, come over to the house. I'm going to call my friends. We're going to raise a couple $100,000 in a couple days. So we did a little dinner party, and we invited all my attorneys that I threatened not to give them any more business if they didn't come and make a nice donation. And we were at about 160,000, and I had my goal set at 200,000. And At one point, I said, we need those boxing shorts that have a little blood over them from the fight in Las Vegas. He said, I'd be happy to give them to you. We sent somebody to his Hancock Park home. They brought the shorts, and in fact, they did go for $40,000, so we did reach our goal. He's a great man. He gives everything to his people, and financially, he's just, it's all about the people, and what he loves to say is, God will provide, I'm not worried about money, and he's an incredible man.
So he may not have given the shirt off his back, but he did give the shorts off his legs.
Yeah.
Now, just to kind of expand upon your charity efforts, you have a foundation, the Victorino Noval Foundation, which I understand is actually named after your father, and it was your 4 sons who got the foundation together. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Well, you must be very proud of them. And what's the foundation all about? What does it get involved with? And what do you see its function?
Well, the foundation is a foundation that gives. It doesn't accept money. Many times when I'm doing the events, people want to donate, write checks to the foundation. And no, we write the checks to whatever the charity is, and we ask the people to do that also. We've been very lucky to do some great events, whether it was an Oscar event or whether it was the one that we did with, I'm forgetting her name right now. But we've done so many great events that have just been fantastic, that have raised millions and millions of dollars at the Vineyard, which is our pride and joy.
Mm-hmm. And as you say, the foundation is very diverse. I see, just reading through some of the information here, that it's benefiting numerous organizations throughout the world by sponsoring a number of programs such as cultural exchange programs, youth sports and fitness, science and technology, as well as, you've already touched upon, helping aspiring artists pursue their dreams in entertainment. So is that sort of diversity something that is very important to you?
Well, I find it that the stars have so much power to be able to do charity events and participate in charity events, and I'm trying to do the same thing right now with Tony Kaye from American X, and he's just a great guy. I met him through a friend, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp and I are working on something that we hope to get done, and he introduced me to Tony Kaye, who was doing a movie with Shia LaBeouf that was called Stranger Than We Were, and I understand now even Russ is going to take over the role of Shia. So I'm really excited to be able to work with him, and these guys that are willing to do the movies and make the donations, make the profits of the movie, or a percentage of the profits, donations to help the next generation, it's just a privilege to be able to approach them. And they're easy to talk to. If they know that you're not trying to take advantage of their fame to try to make money for yourself, the reaction is just fantastic that they want to cooperate and make these movies.
In fact, one of the other notables that I know you've been involved with is Donald Trump. And apparently you were discussing doing a beauty pageant with him.
Well, Donald Trump wanted to do a beauty pageant in Dubai, and I have a lot of friends there, and I approached him. That didn't work out. I don't think Dubai is looking for beauty pageants, but I met with him and Steve Wynn up at the Vineyard Beverly Hills. It's owned by the Victorino Noval Foundation, by the kids, and they were more interested in talking about the Vineyard Beverly Hills, than they were about anything else. It's the most beautiful piece of property, but we have no intent whatsoever to sell. This is the place where we do all our charity events. It's 157 acres. It's bigger than Disneyland, and It's in 90210, and it's just something that we won't sell, at least in my lifetime.
You mentioned an Oscar night, and I believe that was with James Cameron and also Charlize Theron, amongst others. What was that for?
That was a fantastic night. We did, after the Oscars, we did a party at the Vineyard, and it was hosted by James Cameron and Charlize Theron, and of course Sean Penn showed up, and Halle Berry, and it was a star-studded night. And the charity was a charity that gives kids money for their entrepreneur desires in inner city. There's a lot of kids that have a lot of ideas, and whether they're teenagers or 18 or 19, 20-year-olds, I still call them kids, that can't make whether it's any kind of an entrepreneurial thing, whether it's an app or anything. They don't have the money to do it. So they make a business plan. If it gets approved by the committee, we give them the money, and they $5,000 or whatever the case is, and then they come back and they show us what they did with the money. And if they did well, we continue funding them, and hopefully these guys do successful stuff and hire people, and the next generation just becomes more and more creative.
Now, of course, helping to provide funding for the arts would not be complete without the inclusion of music. And you did an event, I understand, with Rihanna. So what was that like? Because I hear it was quite a grandiose happening, shall we say.
Well, it was a diamond ball, and it was at the Vineyard, and that's probably my biggest event. We had about, I think it was 900 people, and it was just phenomenal. She did a show with a 100-piece orchestra, and it was hosted by Brad Pitt and Jimmy Kimmel, and it was just another star-studded event. And that day, I understand we raised about $9 million for breast cancer in one night, which to be a part of that is just, wow. I'm just so happy that she chose the Vineyard, she chose to work with us and making us part of it. And again, it was a great night. Elon Musk walked up to me and said, I want to do the next one. So Elon, if you see this interview, you're up.
Now, these are all sort of everyday events for you, it would seem, but word has it that you throw quite an annual holiday party. So if events are raising $9 million in an evening for breast cancer, then what on earth happens at the annual holiday party?
We get a lot of toys. I do that event. I do two events. One I do at my house every year, and I get people really excited about it. Usually I bring snow to the house, or last year we brought penguins. This year we're doing an ice rink. And we just make it the greatest party, and we insist that everyone in the community brings a lot of presents for kids. We get thousands of presents sometimes, and we distribute them among different charities. One of the things that I insist on when I send the invitation out is that they bring toys for foster kids, for teenagers. A lot of times when we think about giving toys to kids for Christmas, we think about toddlers, we think about small kids, and the teenagers kind of get left out in the cold, which is really bad, because kids that are 13, 14 years old, they're still kids. So I try to target helping the teenagers, because the little kids, people always think about the little kids, so I concentrate on the teenagers.
So is that in affiliation with the Children's Trust Fund?
Yes, I work with the Children's Trust Fund, Spark of Love, and different organizations.
Mm. Now, also there's another event, if that's the right word, Babes in Toyland, which certainly sounds interesting. Maybe you can shed some light on what that is for us.
Well, like I said earlier, charity events are great when big stars are affiliated. Well, this one is usually thrown in Hollywood. It's for a couple thousand people. I sponsor it. And Babes in Toyland are a lot of girls that Playboy girls from the magazine or models, and they seem to attract a lot of people that want to donate also. So I guess they're stars in their own realm.
Now, another charitable, again, event, I need to come up with another word other than event, but it's called Real Aid. And maybe you can tell us a bit more about that. I understand it's essentially designed to help others help others. And you create promotional videos and marketing tools for non-profit organizations to use for fundraising, outreach, and educational purposes, correct?
Yes, I've done a lot of those kinds of things, whether it was, again, for bullying. Bullying was a big thing in my mind. Because a lot of times, when your kid gets bullied, you think you go fix it. That's not something that gets fixed. You have to prevent it, because it's difficult to fix once it happens. So anything related to that, or a lot of head injuries with kids that play football, and later on we see these football players with just horrible pain, and we've got involved with Peter Berg and Jeremy Irons that have been doing these kinds of things for us, and we're very grateful that when they get the call, they rise up and they want to participate in anything that will help the kids.
And in fact, I understand one of the projects that you did with Real Aid was called The Hill That Chris Climbed, which was about a football player who was paralyzed on the field, right?
Yeah, that was a Peter Berg one.
Yep.
And I think that football it's a great game. I mean, I love football, and I can't understand why the technology on the helmets hasn't gotten better. It's a shame that these kids suffer these kinds of injuries.
What other work did you do with Andy Lauer? And also there was a project, I believe, that involved Jeremy Irons.
Yes. Andy, I usually fund when he calls, and he tells me a little bit about the project. And, if it's something that's going to help kids or something that really needs doing, I fund him, and he just always picks the right projects. I love him.
Now, I'd like, if I may, to move to focus a little bit more on your passion for being involved in filmmaking and how that came about. I know we discussed it a little bit at the start of the interview. You have a very impressive resume, one that many would die for or kill for. I'm just curious to know, and I'm sure other people are as well, how did you get that resume? How did you get started? And isn't it very difficult to get started in Hollywood?
Well, no, I got started in real estate. I came here from Cuba when I was 6 years old, and I came from a very hardworking family in real estate. And like I said earlier, real estate's great, and especially in California. I think to live in California and be part of the real estate world and being involved in that my whole life, it led to success. And it comes to a point where you get tired of doing that, and what is in fact more fun to do and is in the movie business. So when I saw the opportunity with James to get involved, I jumped on and said, boy, if I'm going to get involved, I want to do it with somebody that's giving and a big star. And he really motivated me to get involved, and every day I get more and more involved because of the first thing I did. And the movie business is great. I go to all the award ceremonies, and I get to do all these charity events afterwards. And because of my association with him, I'm able to raise large amounts of money and help.
Now, they say in Hollywood, never fund your own projects. So I'm curious, your expertise in filmmaking, was that through trial and error?
No, I've got this sounds funny, I've never lost money in a movie. And the reason is that they won't want me to say this, the stars, but I don't pay the stars. They can take half the profit, and I give half the profit to whatever charity, my half the profit to whatever charity I pick, usually the arts. And the stars want to cooperate because when I approach them about a project, they know that I'm not making anything from it, that I'm doing it from goodwill, something I believe in. And usually they agree, or I'm willing to go whatever their charity is and help their charity, because it's fun to be in the business. And these stars have a lot of power to help the people. People want to give if they're around. They have a lot of access to the public. So I try to explain that to them, that they're very, very lucky. And a lot of these guys started with nothing, and now they have millions of dollars, they're very successful. And I don't even need them to donate money, I need them to show up. Everyone else will donate the money.
I believe it was Kevin Spacey who said something to the effect that when you get to the top, it's your duty to send the elevator back down.
Yes.
And clearly that's something you're doing in abundance. Just out of interest, what projects do you have coming up in film at the moment?
Well, I'm doing a few. I'm really excited about the ones that I'm doing with Tony Kaye. Mm-hmm. I think Tony Kaye is the most successful commercial producer in England. He's an incredible man. He did History X. He's so creative. He's a real artist. He paints, he directs, he can do anything. And my association with him, and now I've introduced him to James and trying to do something together. But he's such a creative guy, and he walks around with the guitar, and he can do anything. And I'm just so happy to be associated with him now. So I'm looking forward to doing something with him by the end of the year.
I understand actually that as a commercial director, he's won more awards than all the British directors combined. I don't know if that's true, but what are some of the projects that you'd like to highlight that you're planning to do with him in the future?
Well, the one with Stranger Than We Were, mm-hmm. Stranger Than We Were, is a great project. It's about a father that is an alcoholic, mm-hmm. and he doesn't see his kid. He doesn't visit his kids, and I think that at one time he sees a light, and I think that it's a great movie. I think it'll do well. Shia LaBeouf believed that he was going to get an Academy Award from this, and it's the kind of movie that really gets to you. And I think that after reading the script and we did a little trailer on it, I really believe that it's going to be played in every rehab home in the world, a rehab facility. It's just a real wake-up call, and it's a movie that, yes, it may get an Academy Award. It's going to be a great movie, I believe, but I think it's one of those movies that are going to be great to help people mm-hmm. with alcohol problems and drug problems.
And that's Stranger Than Wheel, I understand, correct?
Yes.
So will you, do you think, continue to work with Tony on the foundation?
Well, I think Tony is or is about to become a member of the Victorino Noval Foundation, and we want to do a lot of charity events for him and with him, and we want to do a lot with him. I just love him. A lot of people love him, and again, I'm really grateful that I met him. He came over the other day. We had a little cocktail party at the house, and he grabbed his guitar and he entertained everyone, and it was it's just a phenomenal guy. I love him.
Well, Victorino Noval, you certainly mix with some very interesting people, and we wish you continued success with all of your charitable endeavors. And for now, let me just say thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back right after this.